and our panel is here with me. Mark O'Mara, I want to start with you, just as you take a look at where we are. You're 4+ hours in. It was just before, I want to say 3 o'clock when the first note came out, you know, and we all came running in to hear it. And it was requesting those 4 pieces of testimony. And then about a half an hour later, 20 minutes later or so, the next request for the actual jury instructions to be read back. So when you take all this and you're 4+ hours in, what do you think at this point?
I think they're doing it very well. I think they're doing it chronologically, as was just said. There's 2 ways or 2 reasons sometimes to want a transcript. One is the simplistic one. I thought she said the light was red. No, I believe she said the light was green. And they bring out the transcript to resolve the conflict in facts as remembered by the jury. I will tell you, it doesn't seem to be what's happening here now that we know they're asking for different transcripts about the same event, that one event that may be the first step in the conspiracy as alleged by the prosecution. So I think it's good that they're going through it logically. Somebody said a couple of days ago it might be a 1-hour jury, and I think the rest of us said 1-hour verdict. We said no way. And I think they should take their time. It's a very, very significant case. I think they are. And I think they have a lot more work to do through tomorrow and maybe the next day.
All right. So, Harry, you've been in there every day of the trial, and you spent a lot of time watching the jury. Obviously, you know, I think what was so interesting today is that, you know, it's empty, and then all of a sudden the note comes out. I mean, it's like back to the, you know, 1850s.
By Friday, those phones are going to be like rats in a cage.
And then we all go running in, and then the jury and the judge, everyone comes out. Okay. And then they put their request in. But you have spent a lot of time watching the jury all the way through this. Kristen Holmes, who obviously covers the Trump campaign, she's reporting the Trump's team believes there are 1 or 2 jurors in particular that could deliver them a mistrial. What's your take on the jury?
Look, that fact is unremarkable. We're exactly at the stage where people are, you know, every little thing you tease out in 16 different directions. Each party made their final calls for jury selection, remember, and they took a couple risks. And it's just part of the trial lawyer's art or obsession. They're focused very much on the jury, and I think it stands to reason for each of them. Was number 7 kind of smiling when the jury, you know, you just,
right.
There's
there
a
was
lot of speculation.
Somebody that seemed to nod when J.D. Vance was in the room
there
in
you
support
go.
of Trump.
Yeah.
That, in particular, a lot of eyes on that juror.
That's right. So, in other words, the fact that they say, oh, we think there are 1 or 2 who could be holdouts, says essentially nothing. Every trial you would have something like that, and you'd be focused on it exactly now.
All right, so as you're in the courtroom today and you see this jury going in and out, what do you read into it? I mean, clearly they're taking their time and they've paid attention all the way through, but what's your take on them now?
I think the questions are excellent. The fact that they are looking for Pecker's testimony compared to Cohen's testimony at that August 2015 meeting in Trump Tower, it could mean a couple of things. Yes, they're starting at the beginning, but we already know Michael Cohen is already deemed an accomplice. So maybe what they're trying to do is to see if his testimony has been corroborated, because the judge said it has to be corroborated. So that's what I think they're looking for there. And as far as the other 2 questions, I think they want more details about what is Pecker thinking. Is he credible? Because those other 2 questions had to do with what Pecker is thinking about at that investor meeting, and also as far as McDougal's concerned.
All right, and so, Ryan, then on top of all this, the judge, the juror, the last note, every time there's a note, everyone says, well, maybe they're actually done. Maybe we're done here. Anyway, nope. They come out and they want this. Okay. So can we just take a step back on this? 55 pages, and they don't get to look at it? I mean, I understand this is the case in every case, and I want to make that clear, but that doesn't make any sense.
Hour and a half to read. We were there when he did it.
Yeah. I mean, and then they're supposed to just remember?
Right. So it doesn't make sense in the sense of that's not a smart way of handling the criminal justice system. That is the New York criminal justice system. So like
right.
Said,
No, I understand it is a rule.
Standard
but if you want people to know what they're doing and think correctly about it, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and the way I think of it is like myself as a lawyer, I want that document. I want to look at it at least on my computer in hard copy. I want to circle things and highlight them, and then it helps me remember it, know the elements of each of the crimes. They don't have that. They have to do it by memory, and only having been told it once. So now they're actually asking for it at least to be told it a second time. But that really puts it in a really strange category.
It also raises the question, and I'm just saying it raises the question. 55 pages is a lot, so I don't want to put, you know, any kind of motivation. But among the things written on these 55 pages, Harry, is although you must conclude unanimously that the defendant conspired to promote or prevent the election of any person to a public office by unlawful means, you need not be unanimous as to what those unlawful means were. This is the entire heart of the point Ty Cobb was making last night.
That's right.
And I'm not saying that's necessarily what they're going for, but it could be.
Yeah, and when we read that all the way through these last few weeks, it makes your head spin. But I actually think they haggled that out on Wednesday. And what the judge gave them, I think, was not all that complicated. You know, you got to do three things. They were false, and bizarrely, the Trump team is fighting on whether they're saying, oh, these are real things. He was actually getting paid for legal services, you know, preposterous. And these false records were done to promote some candidacy. That looks pretty strong as well, and by unlawful means, but they're really leading with one theory, which is the unlawful means here is an excessive federal campaign contribution. So all in all, I don't think you immediately go into the deep end. I think it's manageable for the jury. I just wanted to say one thing about the call. So I agree with everything, but the call is important that Pecker takes from Trump. First, it's very memorable. He's like talking to shareholders, and the president of the United States is on the call. But it does two things, I think. First, it makes clear Pecker thinks that Trump had an affair with McDougal. He says so. Yep. And so it might mean they're thinking about Trump's credibility, including with Stormy. But second, and more importantly, Trump tells Pecker, just go to Cohen. Cohen will take care of this. In other words, he does Trump, Cohen in the exact role Cohen said he played.
And that's consistent, which could be significant.
Yeah.
Mark O'Mara, I know these instructions stand out to you, though, again, as I go through them, the 55 pages.
Well, they really do, because it is truly an instruction booklet. And if I said to you, Aaron, here is 55 pages, read it once, and then go tune up the car, go put together the piece of furniture, go do anything that you are not used to doing.
Alan Rand, right?
Yeah.
You would say it was insane, and yet not to give them that so they can look through it and answer their own questions, what they have about the instructions, just makes no sense to me. And I think it is, again, sort of grounds for an appeal with a conviction, because the state can't appeal on acquittal. But if there's a conviction, more grounds for appeal. I know it's the law or the protocol in New York, but it just makes so little sense to not give them something which is so instructive and also so confusing, to clear up that confusion before they make a mistake.
I like the furniture assembly analogy, because having put together certain IKEA items, I think everybody can now understand.
You actually did?
In case you did, and not successfully.
Right,
There's some broken parts.
Right.
But Ryan, you know, so when you look at the requests that came out today, where do you sort of, when you take a step back, and obviously maybe the jury themselves don't know, but where do you think this leads?
I think the prosecution probably thinks they're having a good day. And the main reason is that in the closing statement, the strongest argument that Todd Blanche has is Michael Cohen is not credible, and without his testimony, this thing is over. The four questions suggest they have passed that hurdle. They're asking about Cohen's testimony, whether or not it's corroborated by Pecker's testimony. They're asking about Pecker taking the call. They're asking about Pecker's arrangement with the McDougal hush money payment. They've seemed like they're not being hung up by that, because otherwise it could be game over.
And one final question, Terry, to you. I was just watching Trump today, and he was very engaged during tapping his lawyers back and forth, back and forth. Did you notice anything about him today?
Yes, actually I did. When he left today, at the very end of the day, he seemed deflated. He is looking at the audience, but he looked at his son, and Donald Jr. actually looked back. And one of the things I noticed, it looked as though Donald Jr. was saying, "Are you okay?" Because he did look really down and really deflated. Now, maybe earlier he had more energy, but I think by the time all of it was said and done and he was sent to the other room while he waited to see if there were going to be any questions, he seemed very deflated.
That's interesting, and that exchange between him and his son. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. And next, we